Namaste. This clipping is on national income calculation through the expenditure method and the precautions that one needs to undertake for the same method. First step to calculate the national income through this particular method is to identify the economic units. The various economic units that are going to undertake the final expenditure are the households, the firms, the government and the external sector. So after identifying these economic units, identify the private final consumption expenditure of each category, the final consumption expenditure of each category. So that would be the private final consumption expenditure of the households, as you have seen in the previous video clipping. The households and the private not-for-profit organizations, they spend on the commodities which comes under private final consumption expenditure. The general government's expenditure on final goods and services, which is GFCE, plus the gross domestic capital formation, which includes the fixed as well as the inventory investment components. So that would be the final consumption and the investment expenditures of an economy from within the domestic territory, plus net exports, which is basically the difference between exports and imports. So PFCE plus GFCE plus GDKF plus net exports is supposed to give you the aggregate GDP MP. So if it is the GDP MP, you know how to make adjustments and thereby arrive to the NNP FC or the national income. So GDP MP minus depreciation plus NFIA minus NIT would give you NNP FC. So from gross to net, you remove depreciation. From domestic concept to national concept. So with the domestic income, you add NFIA, that is the net factor income from abroad. And since it is a MP, from MP to arrive at FC, NIT has to be reduced. So this is how the net national product at factor cost, which is nothing but the national income, can be arrived at through the expenditure method. Now what are the various precautions that one has to keep up in order to calculate NNPFC through this particular method? The first one is that the intermediate consumption should not be taken into consideration. The private or the firm's final consumption expenditure will only be taken into consideration and not the intermediate consumption expenditure. Second thing is the transfer payments which the population is going to make, like that of the income tax or any other taxes which are transfers, will not be part of this particular method. Again, you know that it's only the factor payment even under the income method. So here the transfer payment cannot be considered as a payment that is made on the final goods and services. So no transfers will become part of the calculation. The third one is purchase of second-hand goods. You've already seen that sale of second-hand goods and receipts thereupon is not included under the income method. Here, a similar concept, purchase of second-hand goods is not to be considered. Only purchase of the first-hand goods will be referring to the productive activity that is taking place during the accounting year. That would be the value of the products and services that is generated within the time period. And the second-hand goods, purchase of such goods will not be added because their value would have been added in the year of their initial production. The fourth one is purchase of the financial assets, like purchase of shares and purchase of debentures and so on. No, not debentures, purchase of shares and bonds, right? They are not to be included under this particular method because they are only the financial transfers. it passes on from one person to that of the other. It's not as a result of any productive activity. So purchase of such financial assets, sincere transfers, they will not be considered under this particular method. So these are the 4 major precautions that one has to undertake to calculate national income through the expenditure method. Now with that, you are ready to crack all the numericals related to all the 3 methods, namely the value added method and then the income method and expenditure method. All the best and thank you.